In my last video, I discussed how much score you get by answering all the questions of the reading section correctly. And for that, we did one of the official mock tests from Pearson. And that showed us that only around half of the score in reading actually comes from reading, and the rest comes from the other sections like speaking and listening and writing, among which we found that speaking played a major role in your reading score. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about how reading itself affects other sections, especially writing. Let's get it started. If you're new to this channel, my name is Roman. I'm the founder of reading-pte. We have been providing PT classes to people in Australia as well as people all over the world using our online as well as face-to-face classes. If you're interested in our classes, you can simply go to reading-pte.com, where you will find more information about both our online and face-to-face classes. Our classes come with one-to-one consultation as well as mock test, and these are based on the past exam questions. All right, so let's talk about today's topic, that is how reading affects our writing section. Perhaps some of you already know this, but almost 1/3 of your score in writing actually comes from reading. In fact, as we saw in our last video, 25 marks comes from the writing section and rest comes from the other section like listening and reading. And there also we discussed that reading plays a major role in your writing score. Now, after the experiment I did with the writing section, again, we found that your performance in reading can have a major impact on your writing score. In fact, many of you who are struggling with your writing score, you must start focusing more on your reading section, especially fill in the blanks reading and writing. So why is it so? Why fill in the blanks reading and writing plays such an important role? And why, unlike other tests where essay plays an important role, Pearson is not putting much emphasis on essay and rather emphasizing other questions like reading and writing fill in the blanks in reading, or let's say write from dictation and listening? Now, I'll try to answer these questions in today's video. Reading and writing fill in the blanks is a question where you are given a long passage with a few words missing from a couple of sentences. Your job is to pick one of the best answers out of the 4 options given in each question. And in order to do this, you are supposed to read the passage, understand the passage. That's why it's considered a test of reading. But why is it the test of writing as well? In order to understand that, first we have to think about how we need to solve these questions or what are the skills involved in answering these questions. From my point of view, there are 6 different skills that you have to apply when you're answering reading and writing fill in the blanks. The first is, of course, the grammatical understanding of the sentence construction, because in many cases you can pick the answers just because of the grammatical clues. For example, if before the gap I see the word like many, then I have a clue that the word that I'm looking for is a plural word and it's a countable noun. And of course, I will eliminate all the options which are not in correct form. Now, besides grammar, there are other 5 skills involved when you're answering reading and writing fill in the blanks questions. What are those 5 skills? The first is awareness of the context, especially whether the context is positive or negative. Because often you'll find that the options given are either positive or negative. And looking at the context around the gap, you can eliminate some of the options. So if I know that what they're looking for is a positive word, then I can safely eliminate all the words which have negative sense. The second is collocations. Perhaps you already know that collocations are very important for PTE because many questions you get in reading especially are based on collocations. So what are collocations actually and how they can help us in the test? Collocations, co-locations. That means together in the location. These are the words which often come together, which are more natural combinations for the native speakers. Because of that, when we use them in the same order as the natives do, it sounds more natural. How do they test collocations? Most of the times when they are testing the collocations, they'll give you the words which can make proper sense in the context, but just because the other words sound more natural, we have to go for those words. And that's how collocations help us in the test. As an example, he did suicide and he committed suicide. He committed suicide sounds more natural. The reason for that is committed suicide is a collocation. So just like this, there are so many collocations that they keep testing in the exam, and you should be aware of them. A good way to do that would be to go to Pearson's website and find the list of collocations from there, because Pearson has prepared a list of around 2,500 collocations which they are going to test in your exam. Now, the other thing you need to be aware of while picking the answer is formality of the writing. Most of the times, the passages you see in the exam are the formal passages, which means if you are given 2 options and both of them you think have the same meaning, you have to think which one is more formal and you have to pick the formal one. So for example, if you in the option you see allow and permit both, you know that both of them have almost the same meaning. So you have to choose permit because that's a more formal word. Now the next thing is prepositional phrases. Prepositional phrases are quite difficult. When I was learning English myself, when I was just in the beginner phase, I used to find them really confusing and difficult. And it took me a long time to master them. And still sometimes I feel confused about them. The reason for that is there is not basically any logic behind most of these prepositional phrases. You just have to memorize them. For example, why should I say responsible for? Why should I say subject to? Why should I say attributed to? I don't know the reason. It's just how you are supposed to use it. And now in the exam, how do they ask you questions based on this knowledge? What they do is they give you a gap followed by a preposition, and then you have to look at that preposition and decide which of the given options can be followed by this preposition and make sense in the context as well. That's how you are supposed to answer that question. And the last one is you are always supposed to pick the word which is more specific for the topic if you have more than one options which makes sense. So for example, if someone says that he identified the problem and someone says that he diagnosed the problem, which one do you think sounds more sensible? So in general context, perhaps you'll say he identified the problem is better because diagnose is a word you would use in medical context. But let's say that what we are reading is about a medical condition and he means a doctor, then perhaps we would pick he diagnosed the problem because that is more specific for the topic. So these are some of the things to keep in mind. Besides these points I mentioned here, there are several other things you have to keep in mind while doing reading and writing. Fill in the blanks. And in a way, how well we understand these things and how we pick the words based on these principles reflect how good our writing skill is. And that's why indirectly these questions measure your writing skills as well. And that's the reason why Pearson has put so much emphasis on this, because a person who can write a sentence well, understands the context well, can eventually write a sentence well, perhaps a long sentence well, and perhaps a complete essay well as well. So what that means is anyone who is good in doing reading and writing fill in the blanks can be good in summarized written text as well as in essay writing. That's the reason why Pearson is putting so much emphasis on this question. So my suggestion for those of you who are struggling with your writing score is make sure that your reading and writing fill in the blanks question skill is also good. Don't just waste your time practicing essay question and summarized written text only. Remember that this is an integrated test and you have to look at the test in a holistic manner. You have to look at all the questions which can impact your score in a particular section and find out which one is your problem, and always spend more time on those questions which carry more points and are difficult or are your problems. The other question which can have impact on your writing score is write from dictation. But I will talk about that in our next video, in which I'll be discussing how listening can impact the score in listening as well as your score in other sections such as writing and reading. If you think this video was useful, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss our future updates. If you think this video can help others, please share it on social media and let your friends know about this channel. If you found anything confusing in the video, do not hesitate to write in the comments. I try my best to answer all of your questions as much as I can. And if you want me to cover any other topic in the next video, please let me know. Some of you have already requested for repeat sentence or write from dictation questions, which I'm preparing now. I really appreciate your patience that you could watch all the way until the end, and all the best for your upcoming exam. Thank you.